What's going on, everybody? This is Moose and Brian here from OccupyFantasy.com, at OccupyFantasy on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm your host, Moose, at CFB_Moose on Twitter is where you can find me. New profile picture, so go ahead and check that out. Co-founder and data guru here at Occupy Fantasy, alongside with Brian at BrianJesterFF on Twitter, co-founder and CEO of Occupy Fantasy. How's it going, man?
What's up, Moose? Been a while, dude. Haven't seen you on the stream.
Yeah, I've been crushing a lot of things on the back end, doing a lot of research, doing a lot of other stuff, and so hold on, I gotta get on the stream one of these times. So I'm back here, ready to talk some MLB. I'm loving it. So thanks for having me. As I said, as I'm the host.
Yeah, as you're the. I was just gonna say, as you're the host, thanks for letting me host this. No, I'm glad you're back. We always have a good time when we do the streams together. So let's talk some baseball tonight.
Definitely. Hopefully my face doesn't sweat as it's like 100 degrees here. So.
Dude, it's so hot. So for those who don't know, we're in the DMV, and it is close. It's literally close to 100 degrees here.
Yeah, my face looks like a cherry, so I apologize in advance for that. But here, we're not here to talk about our faces or the weather. We're here to talk about some baseball. So as you see on screen here, this is the Daily Plug, the May 31st edition at OccupyFantasy.com. You can go ahead and check out with any membership. We're going to be here till about 6:30 or so, answering your questions. If you have questions, go ahead and ask. If you just want to drop by and say hello that you're here, you can do that too. Or if you just want to sit back and listen, totally fine with us as well. But Brian, so you and I were talking a little bit beforehand, and we can just jump right into it. Seems like it's a very expensive pitcher's night, and it's going to have to affect the way we do our stacks.
Yeah, I think so. And if you look at projected ownership, you'll see a lot of the cheaper stacks, a lot of the cheaper players with a little bump in ownership, and I think that's a result of that. And if you look at our pitching model tonight, and I think it was, I want to say last Thursday or last Tuesday when I did a stream, it was kind of a similar slate where you have 4 or 5 guys above 16 OF index and a couple in that 13 range, but then no one really below 7K or even 8K even that is attractive for any contest type. And sometimes we'll get a 6-7K pitcher near the top and we can use our SP2, but really there's nothing like that tonight. So for me, it means we're paying up at pitchers. We talked about it all year, paying up at pitcher and getting some cheaper stacks, trying to find those cheaper stacks and see who they are.
Yeah, and as you see here on the pitcher's model, Eric Lauer leads the model, 18.3 OF index, but that's 9,900. There's no real players under 9,000, 8,000 that can really help you fit in a cheap pitcher, so that's going to be very tough. Brian, I was going to ask you this. I'm one of the ones that love the wraparound stacks, especially for expensive stacks. I think the public might go that way, so I think you almost have to ignore that. If you're going to play an expensive stack and do like a 7, 8, 9, 1 stack or something, I think too many other people are going to be doing that. I don't like that tonight.
Yeah, which is surprising to hear you say that because you're a big advocate for the wraparound stack. But yeah, I think that's the case, especially now. Coors Field is off the slate. We haven't talked about that yet. That game did get postponed, and we normally see some bottom of the orders hitters there get some ownership. But yeah, I'm curious to see who ends up getting the ownership tonight. But the nice thing about it was there's so many games on this slate, and we know that if 2 of those pitchers that we talked about are optimal, then there's probably going to be a 4 or 5 man stack get there that's super cheap that no one's really playing that much. So those are the guys that we have to try to find.
And one of those stacks that came up, you and I were also talking about it before, is the Cardinals. They do rank number 1 in our stack dashboard. Very sneaky. I think that's a team that can get you there.
Me too. So I was looking at it today, and I was building, and you see that they have, for some reason, there's a disconnect between what our model is thinking and what the betting markets are telling us, as they have the number 1 OF index on the slate, they have the number 1 isolated power on the slate, and they have the number 4 weighted on base average on the slate. Ownership doesn't follow, and that's because their team total is just kind of middling, 4.61 runs. And you figure they have a matchup tonight with Blake Snell, who is making his 3rd start coming off the DL, looked good in his last outing, racked up some Ks, and I think that's the primary reason, right? If Snell is back to what he was pre-injury, it's a pretty tough matchup. But again, it's only his 3rd start, and the model is picking up on something here because Blake Snell went 5 1/3 last outing, but will he do that again as he still ramps back up? So there's a lot of room for error there, which means we could get a pretty decent chunk of the bullpen to pick on.
Yeah, and as you see here in the stack dashboard, St. Louis is number one for the DraftKings main slate. Atlanta right behind them, which does kind of lead into our first comment here. First comment was from Q. It says, hello, that I'm here. Thank you for that. Nick says Acuna and the Braves are going to nuke the slate tonight with one of the highest Vegas team totals on the slate, Brian. If they go off, I imagine they'll take some ownership.
That's what I'm trying to look at here too, right? So we were talking in Discord this morning how it's like we think it's hot here. It's even hotter in Arizona, and for some reason they're leaving the roof open, which obviously helps hitters there a little bit. But Atlanta, their ownership is going to be middle of the pack, nothing too crazy that we can try to avoid, and they do rank number 2 in our model. So we get the nice hitting weather there. Sure, it has the humidor and it's got the effects that to try to take some of the weather out of it, but it's still 100 degrees there and super humid. And yeah, you gotta like the ownership ranking disconnect there.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before. Never like in detail or anything, but when, as you just mentioned, the hotter it is, the easier it is to hit a ball that farther. At what point do you think it starts to become a negative? Because obviously, if it's like 100 and something degrees, if we're hot, and imagine people actually like doing actual things outside, it's probably more hot for them. As well. So even though the ball may go farther, it may be more difficult for them to hit. Have you ever thought about something like that before?
I've only thought about it because I had this issue way back in my playing days, back in high school, where when I was pitching, I could not pitch in cold weather to save my life. I guess I have small hands, right? And I couldn't grip the ball as well, and I just couldn't control the pitches. But in warm weather, I had my best outings when it was hot. The hotter it was, the better it was for me. And I feel like a lot of pitchers feel the same way. So that could be the case, right? If it's super hot, maybe the pitchers are getting comfortable and they're able to locate their balls better, and that negates the hitting. So I'm sure there's always some worries there, but we talk about in these shows all the time. Let's just think of high-level strategies, play them out over the course of the season. And yeah, if Atlanta was like the most chalky stack on the slate, sure, maybe we could try to convince ourselves that would happen, but I don't think we have to worry about it too much tonight. There's really not too many teams that are going to get that much ownership.
Yeah. Ken's in the chat here, says, on Fanduel, who's a pitcher to go with tonight?
Good question. So Lauer leads the model. Christian Javier is behind him. But the thing here is, Moose, right? Those two guys, and we talk about Fanduel with the quality start and the win bonus being more important there. Those guys are only minus 130 and minus 40 respectively on the money line, whereas we have Julio Urias, who's minus 375 as a big favorite, and no surprise he'll be one of the more popular pitchers on FanDuel. But the K upside isn't there compared to those other guys. So, for high-risk tournaments, I'm more than fine playing Lauer and Javier as my guys. And probably Javier, just the fact that he's 8,700, and these other guys that we're mentioning are 10K plus.
Yeah, do you think you could even drop some of the other ones? Do you think you could drop to Gosman? He is a minus 200 favorite, but he is a little bit more. He's not as expensive as Lauer, but he is a lot more expensive than Javier. K upside again isn't there, but you are getting that one over 1 K's per innings pitch is what we want to look for. Is Gosman someone you could look for as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think Gosman and Orioles are probably your low-risk pitchers. You're playing super small contests or you're playing cash games. Those are the guys you want to target. But any other contests, and we know there's upside, I'm willing to play Lauer or Javier. And I think because they're basically tied in OF index. So I would give the edge to Javier. A little bit higher money line, higher K per innings pitch projection, and it is much, much cheaper.
Yes, definitely. So I know you said who's the pitcher to go to, Ken. We just named you like 6. So you got to do the work from there.
Javier's my answer.
Javier. Perfect. What's up, Jeremy? He says, gotta help me break out of my slump. What about stacking Arizona versus old Charlie Morton?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the one thing I was noticing this morning, we were just tweaking the model a little bit early in the day, and Morton has not averaged more than 5 innings per outing this year. So clearly, as he gets older, the length of his outings are suffering, which means we get more bullpen. And I'll have to dive in here really quickly to see what the bullpen looks like. Okay.
Because he does ask about the Braves pen. One thing that does stand out to me for Arizona is they have that almost plus half a run team total move. They are getting some reverse line movement, and they are one of the lowest owned top tier stacks on DraftKings and FanDuel. So that's always a good indicator there that they can put up some runs.
Yeah, and I'm looking here and just looking at who we expect to pitch tonight for Atlanta's bullpen, our cumulative effects in the back end of the model. Atlanta's bullpen tonight at least looks pretty good, higher than average K projection, which isn't great for hitters, and much lower than average isolated power and weighted on base allowed. And again, trying to nail down who's going to pitch out of the bullpen is tough, but overall they have like a pretty tough bullpen to match up against. But ideally, and it's kind of a cumulative effect here too, was where if you get Morton out early enough, you get worse relievers in there, as opposed to Morton goes 5 or 6, the game's closed, they bring in better relievers. But you're not playing for that scenario, because then they're scoring 3-4 runs, you're not winning a tournament anyways, right? You're playing for the tournament, you're playing for the outcomes where they get him out early and now a reliever's coming in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th inning, and it's not who our model's even projecting. So those are scenarios that you're playing for regardless.
Makes sense to me. Yeah. So wish you luck, Jeremy. Let's hope you get a takedown tonight. Get out of that slump. I want to talk back to St. Louis for you, Brian, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up the batters model here. And if we pull up St. Louis, we see here, here's all of their batters. We see clearly 1, 2, 3, 4 order is not, and the top 4 hitters is 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you deviate away from something like that, or you see these people are good, they're near the top of the model, I'm going to go with them since they're all low owned?
No, I think there's no reason to try to get too cute with it. I'll play those guys, and I'm looking here because I ran the builder this afternoon after putting in some inputs and what I think is optimal for this kind of slate. And so St. Louis is getting a lot of love, and if I'm trying to avoid chalk or what I think might be chalk, Cincinnati's also sneakily popping up there some. And I think you're playing high-risk contests. You have to consider them as well. I know if our old writer Tyler's still in there watching, he'll be super pumped to hear that. But they're going to go way overlooked. Cincinnati is up against who they
Boston.
Oh yeah, against Michael Wacha tonight. So good StatCast data in favor of the Reds hitters there. And I don't think anyone's going to play them whatsoever.
Yeah, and as I just see for St. Louis, they have 2 first basemen. So stupid DraftKings. But actually, this makes a good point about Cincinnati. I have them up here on screen. You see, I'm just going to call out their batting orders in terms of OF index decreasing. 4, 1, 7, 2, 5. Like, how do you... we're trying to go for correlation, and DFS Magic, there is that max lineup gap. How are you kind of playing something like that where the top... You have a stack that you want, and then you look at the batters, and it's all spread out with batting order. Are you just taking the hit with OF index and trying to get the correlation there, or how are you handling that?
Fortunately, this is actually about the limit I would go, because we get 1, 2, 4, 5, 7. So there's really only one gap in between the 2 and the 4 and the 5 and the 7. That's generally what I aim to get anyways. Okay. And the nice thing about Cincinnati is they fill some tough positions. We get a catcher out of them. We get a second baseman out of them. We get a third baseman out of them. In addition to first base, now we got multiple outfield spots to work with. They're great for a 5-3 or 5-2-1. So, Cincinnati stacks, not to give away my game plan for my sole 5-5-5 ticket tonight, but they're looking pretty damn good.
Yes, definitely. As Chris points out, Urias would be a minus 200,000 favorite, and the model would still hate him.
For sure. The model just absolutely does not like Urias for... I would like to investigate why, but it does hate him for sure.
Yeah, that's when I just snuck in the back. I just personally hate him. This is a joke. I just put in if Urias just dropped the OF index
minus
by
5
80.
points.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's good, and they're, like you said, they're relatively cheap. Some expensive positions in there, but they are very low owned. I'm sure you can work around with that. Do you think with as many games as there are tonight, do you think a 5-man stack is still the way to go? Do you think you can go like a 4-4-4 or 5-3-1, 5-2-1-1? Like, how are you handling stack situations tonight with so many games on?
Yeah, so looking at the historical data, generally on these 10-plus game slates, 5-2-1s are the best route for high-risk contests, small and large. 5-1-1-1s get there a little more frequently than you would think, right? So five-man stack, then all one-offs. And that makes sense, right? Because if you just think about it for a second, like you're playing especially larger tournaments, so many games on the slate, you're trying to find those one-offs that get there or fit your lineup better. And then even the 4-2-2s and 4-2-1-1s look a lot better here than they do on smaller slates. So I think you just in general try 5-2-1s, and if there's something that looks a lot better by downgrading to what normally we would consider a less correlated stack, it's definitely fine on these larger slates.
Yeah, these aren't like a hard and fast. Like you don't have to do the 5-man stack if it doesn't work for you, for the lineup that you're building. You have to be flexible sometimes, especially in MLB where things are so crazy, so volatile that sometimes you have to stick to that 4-man stack. But I wouldn't go any lower than a 4-man stack tonight.
Yeah, I agree. We're not building the 1-1-1-1-1-1-1 special tonight.
Definitely. So we're here for about another 15 minutes or so. So if you have any more questions, definitely go ahead and ask. Right, I'm going to bring up the stacks dashboard, and if you're playing the high risk contest here, what are some of the lower, like some of the, I'm going to say gross stacks that, I know you talked about Cincinnati. Are there any other teams? I know Baltimore was recently popping the model for like 2 weeks and just did nothing. Now the model caught up and just like, yeah, they're not good. Like, how low would you go if you're looking at the stack dashboard here? How low would you go to justify playing them in a tournament?
Yeah, so the lowest I would probably go tonight for my primary stack, 4-man stacks, is, I'm just looking here to see what I have. I mean, probably Texas, but even then, like, their team total move is so horrific that I probably wouldn't play them. I guess, so the thing here is, right, the Mets, our model hates them. Hates the OF index, hates the isolated power, but weighted on base average, they look pretty good. And they have number 1 team total, and that's skyrocketed throughout the day. Yeah. So, and I think they'll be pretty popular. So I understand that. If you want to go the Vegas knows best route, then the Mets is as low as I would go there. And that's what I'd be looking for down there is team that stick out from a team total or weighted on base average rank.
Yeah, I would say what I try and do if I'm trying to find, like, what we'll say a gross stack is, I'll look to see if OF index, ISO, and weighted on base average are within the top 10. If they're not, if you just hit it perfect, if weighted on base average and team total are within the top 10, and there's positive team total move, I can consider that a stack. So I would say the Mets as well with you, but then other than that, I wouldn't go anywhere near any of the other teams.
Which means lock in like the Angels or the White Sox or one of these teams as the optimal team tonight.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be, it's going to be the White Sox. Yeah, they're like 30th and everything. Love it. I'm going to go back to the batters, Brian, and just sorting here, especially if you use a stack like Cincinnati that fills a lot of those awkward positions. What are you looking for in your one-offs? Again, just showing here, you see Byron Buxton at the only batter above 10, batting leadoff. That might be a good one-off play. What are you looking for your one-offs?
Yeah, I'm just looking for guys that are high enough index, high isolated power, normally hitting the top half of the order, and fit tough positions. That's really all it comes down to. Because if you use a builder or any lineup optimizer without any rules, oftentimes you'll get some one-offs that are like 7, 8, 9 hitters that really suck, and it's just to fit in the primary stack. It depends on how the optimizer that you're using works. So I always like to use strict mode in our builder, or at least thumbs up some guys that I want. Because while stacking is important, I wouldn't sacrifice completely those final 2-3 spots just to make them fit.
Makes sense. Cool. So, awesome. So, good question there. So, for the last 10 minutes, Brian, let's switch it over just a little bit. Let's talk about some bets, maybe some player props and such as well. When I was looking through the model, I actually had to ask you who this guy even was, but if we go ahead and we sort by stolen base, we see batting 7th is Brian. I believe you said his nickname was something Hawaiian, Fast Hawaiian.
Hawaiian, Fast Hawaiian. The Hawaiian Hustler.
Yeah, the Hawaiian Hustler. That's what it is. I don't know. I think
Fast
mine's
Hawaiian is the most generic nickname. Fast Hawaiian, IKF.
Yes. So you look here from a betting standpoint. I don't like that he's batting 7th, but the stolen base does actually account for batting order as well. So he's the highest in stolen base. We pull up the OccuProp radar, which again checks all the legal sportsbooks in your area for player props. We see that over on BetMGM, a little over 6 to 1 to steal a base.
Wow. All right. Fast Hawaiian, 6 to 1 to get a stolen base.
And again, we don't have the actual data to say this, but you get someone who's really high up with stolen bases. And look, so if you say to get a hit, he's minus 250, minus 220, means he's probably going to get on base either by hit, walk, somehow get a hit. I'd rather way better do 6-1 than a minus 220 bet.
Oh yeah, I mean yeah, that's one. You can feel pretty confident that he'll get on base. And as Q in the chat actually points out, this is a big reason why his stolen base number is that high and he ranks number 1 in the model. Is because they are facing Noah Syndergaard, who is like historically awful at limiting stolen bases against him. Like he's always near the bottom of the league and allowing stolen bases. So that hasn't changed this year. And so Fast Hawaiian looks pretty good. If he can get on base tonight, he's got a chance to swipe one and put some 6-1 tickets in your pocket.
That would be great. So definitely go ahead and lock that one in. Chris says Kevin Pillar to hit a home run. So let's look that one up. And if you guys have any questions or any player you want to look up to see if there's any bets for that specific player, maybe you're going to a baseball game and you're like, hey, I want to bet on Kevin Pillar because I want to see him hit a home run. Let's analyze his props. So if you guys say a player in the chat, we'll look at them and we'll see what we can do to get you any bets for that specific player. And yeah, Q says if he steals a base, we got to get hashtag Fast Hawaiian trending.
Yeah, we have to. All right, let's see. So Pillar, who's batting 9th, by the way, for the Dodgers, it looks like, right? Let me see here.
So there's no way. This has to be just a bad line from FanDuel's feed. But there's no way he's plus 830 to hit a home run. That can't be right.
I believe it. I mean, it's importance of line shopping. I mean, it's almost double what you would get at Caesars. So, and I think as again, if you guys have a question about DFS, let us know in the chat. But as we talk about sports betting here, you should have access to every book, right? Spread out your allocation and have access to all these lines. But you'll notice if you're grinding these props every day, you'll know that, oh, this book is always higher on these types of props than every other book, or oh, this book always has the worst lines for this type of prop. And so, again, I can't wait for the day that Maryland legalizes it. And it always amazes me the amount of props that are available on a given basis. But there's just no way for, no matter what algorithms the books have, that they can put out thousands of props every day and not have some bad lines. Overall, their lines are great, but they're going to be spots that you can easily pick out. So, yeah, encourage everyone to do that.
Yeah, and I'll give you a really good example about that was I listened to a podcast with Jeff Benson, one of the operations manager over at Circus Sports, and he was talking about how a lot of people were saying, hey, can you add player props? Can you add this? Can you add that? And he said, hey, we just don't have the ability to accurately price these and allow $500,000 pops from sharps on all these props. So I can imagine the amount of effort that some of these sports books that don't care and just say, okay, we're just going to put out a prop, and you can clearly see here, double between Caesars and FanDuel. They probably just put out a number, and they don't have the time to look at Kevin Pillar home run props with 600 of them, 600 props on the day between all the games, all the sports, etc.
Yeah, it's just impossible. And even like when we go out for the Super Bowl, like Circa is known for having very favorable lines, even on Super Bowl props. And again, it's not something that they can, props to them for taking the action on it, but the props themselves just aren't. There's plenty of great spots. And I'm actually reading a book now. I'll tweet about it when I'm finished. It's about using qualitative data to beat these algorithms that sports books use. And we can kind of take that same information and use it to beat DFS and find low-owned plays. So I'll tweet about that when I'm done. But yeah, if you listen to my interview on the High Stakes podcast with Neil Orfield, I talked about that a lot too. And again, that's as there's so much more data now, each passing day, month, year in DFS, finding those qualitative spots are certainly where you can get different in tournaments.
Definitely. And I'll just re-pick on a point that you talked about with so many different betting props, is that sometimes you have to just focus on very specific props. Right now I've been focused on pitcher strikeouts and stolen bases. A few years ago I was really focused on getting a hit and total bases. And so if you just say, I don't even care about singles, doubles, home runs, whatever, I'm going to focus on recording RBIs. And so that after a couple of weeks, if you get your process down, you have some sort of algorithm or something that you do, whether by feel, by just looking up on Fangraphs, you'll know way more than the book. You'll be able to see, just as soon as you see the lines, oh, Pillar's batting 9th, I know his home run's probably going to be plus 800. It probably should be plus like 600. So I already know that's going to be a bet. And so if you just keep doing that, stick to something that you're really good at and that you like to do, you're not getting overwhelmed. Just keep hammering it. Same thing with DFS, Brian. We talked about you talked about with MMA. You find your edge, you just absolutely maximize it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's the books are good across all these areas, but they're not great in specific spots, and that's where you need to find. You need to specialize. It's the same exact thing as DFS, right? We talk about it so many times on this show. If you find somewhere that you're good, there's not enough time in the day to be good at everything. No matter, even the top players, there's so many spots that they're missing, and definitely spots you would miss as well. So let's see. We do have a question in the chat moves from Jeremy.
Yep.
How many innings will this Sands guy go for Minnesota? So kind of a weird game log where he's in the major leagues this year. He's only pitched 2 innings twice, like 2 innings and then 2 innings. And his most recent outings at AAA was a 3-inning outing. He did pitch 5 innings at the beginning of the year, but I would say probably in that 2 to 4 inning range is what we can expect from him.
Okay, makes sense to me. Last person we'll look up in the props on the prop radar is Christina Javier. Is because I do see that he has the highest K per innings pitch, and I wanted to take a look at him, what some of his props are. And if we look here, we'll see total pitching strikeouts between 5.5 and 6.5. Do you know, Brian, how long he's planning to go?
Yeah, I think our projection in the back end, let me see here, let me pull it up. Our projection in the back end has Christian Javier, or we got him for, where is he in the model? Javier. We got him for just over 5 innings, so like 5 1/3, maybe a little less. So if you went 5 innings, because you're probably going to bet over on most of these, you do 5 innings to be conservative.
Yeah, so 5 innings, that's 7.2 strikeouts. That's a little bit more than 5.5, I think. So, so the 2 bets that we're going to lock in, both at MGM, or one at MGM, actually 3 bets we have.
Yeah.
Minus 128 over 5.5 strikeouts at BetMGM. Brian, you got to find one more bet. So I can't take all these bets.
All right, sounds good. All right, so I'm gonna be all in on Cincinnati tonight. So
Okay.
we're looking at Cincinnati, and Votto tops the model by a good distance. His Statcast data is crazy, 5th in the entire league in batted ball distance. And now he's facing Michael Wacha, whose Statcast data is pretty poor. So if we're going Joey Votto, let me see. Is there a total basis prop? There is. Right?
Yeah. So there's a total basis prop. Looks like the best one is over at DraftKings. 1.5 bases, total bases plus 120.
Cool. We'll go with that then. Over 1.5 total bases. I want to go with the home run prop, but not entirely convinced here on Votto's power. But a couple hits or a double will get us there. So I'll go Votto over 1.5 plus 120.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and call that pretty much a wrap for bets. If you guys have any last lingering players you want to look at, any DFS questions, any contest selection, bankroll management, anything you want to ask, you got about a minute left. Just to recap on the bets that we talked about, most recently Votto over 1.5 plus 120, over 1.5 total bases at DraftKings. Fast Hawaiian to steal a base at, I believe it was BetMGM. Pilar to hit a home run at Fanduel. And I think we're missing one more.
Yeah.
Javier strikeouts at MGM. So there's 4 bets. Let's hope we go 4-0. Let's go ahead and sweat them. If you bet them and you're in the Discord, let us know. We'll sweat it with you because I want to have some skin in this game. Should be a lot of fun. Give us some excitement to root for. Let's hope our DFS lineups just somehow correlate with that. We win it from both sides. Brian, any last comments, concerns, anything else you want to talk about before I take us out of here?
Oh, just got my single bullet in the 555 tonight. Plan to take that down with the 1 entry, and we'll try to navigate the shark-filled waters there and see what we can do.
Awesome. So I'll be in Discord tonight. I'm sure Brian and all of everyone else will be. But until next time, I'm Moose and he's Brian. We're from OccupyFantasy.com. Have a good night.